So as promised on the Ron Johnson show, we got Darius Butler, cornerback, NFL cornerback, played at UConn as well. But Darius Butler, for those that don't know, I mean, he's on everything DB. He does the man-to-man pod with Antoine Bethea.
Yes,
We got to get
sir.
Bethea on the show at some point. But he's been on the Pat McAfee show. I know you've seen it. Sunglasses, tuxedo, draft night. You've seen him do it all. Like D of the year, he's on ESPN, brother to another. I mean, I've seen him everywhere. But I met Darius Butler getting our MBA at Fordham. Great experience. Glad, and hopefully we get to continue since this pandemic kind of dying down. But yeah, man. So let's just jump into this. Darius Butler, former NFL guy. He's a Colts guy though. He does love the Colts. Pat McAfee as well. We had Steve Weish on the show a week ago for NFL Network, and we asked him, like, hey, what are some games to watch in the NFL? He threw the Vikings-Colts out there, one, because of where it hits in the season, but two, you now add Matt Ryan. You have a high-flying, offense, a solid offense. You got Jonathan Taylor. You got a defense is getting better. You added Reggie Wayne. You added Cato June to kind of get that old Colts mentality back. And now you have Kevin O'Connell, big-time offensive coordinator from the Rams, now head coach with the Vikings. Kirk Cousins now has somebody that can spoon-feed him and get him better. In your mind, what do you think about that Colts-Vikings matchup?
I mean, I think it would be a good one. Like you said, it would be an important and a crucial part of the season. I'm personally not as high on our offense just yet as kind of everyone else is. Definitely very, very high on bringing in a guy like Reggie Wayne. Obviously, all of his experience in big-time games and just a ton of games, played over 200 games in the league, should be a Hall of Famer soon. I'm glad we added him to the staff. Obviously, you bring over a veteran like Matt Ryan to the staff. But I think, and you know this, when you got a 37-year-old quarterback, we need receivers that have done this before, not young, developing receivers. We need guys that can get the spots, that can win matchups, like the Adam Thielens of the world, that even the Justin Jeffersons who are come in and advance so quickly. We don't have that just yet. We got Michael Pittman on the outside. We just drafted Pierce. Hopefully Paris Campbell can stay healthy, but we need like that guy who's been around. Terry McLaurin may be that guy. I hope we get him. But I am excited about this team as a whole, and this should be a good matchup, man. It should be a very good matchup.
Yeah, and looking at the coach, Kyle Shanahan made Matt Ryan the best quarterback he had ever been. 117 passer rating, one of his best seasons. We know how that kind of went with the Falcons, Super Bowl, all that stuff. But Matt Ryan had one of his best seasons with Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan leaves, Matt Ryan slowly declines. Can the Colts get back to and I guess it is Kyle Shanahan, he controlled the offense. Can Frank Wright get that out of him? Can he get that going?
Man, we shall see. Carson Wentz was there last year, and I was a little easier on Carson than the rest of Indy was. He had a somewhat of a deficient season, but I just think he just kind of had that never say die mentality with every play. And, that's tough for a quarterback. And I played with Andrew Luck. He was the same way. Matt Ryan is more of that. He's going to be a stature in the pocket. He's going to know exactly what the defense is giving him and want to get to that back foot on his fifth or his seventh step and let that ball go. And have a guy there to catch it and win. And hopefully we can get that. Frank Wright he's had a ton of success in this league. Obviously, I've been on that staff that won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. And then you have a guy like Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, who's the best running back in football last year. Obviously, once Henry went down, and he's young and he's only getting better. You got Nyheim Hines, but those other pass catchers on the outside, still some question marks there. But I think Frank Wright. Like I said, Reggie Wayne will help those guys develop and come along quicker, but I still think we need that big-time playmaker on the outside.
And let's talk about stigma. There's players that create stigmas within this NFL, within the players, the media. So Carson Wentz has a stigma. This is why. Matt Ryan last year, 20-12, 20 TDs, 12 interceptions, 90.4 passer rating. Carson Wentz, 27-7, 94.6. So he was better than Matt Ryan, but the fans were so excited to get rid of Carson Wentz and bring in Matt Ryan. And now let's fast forward and go to Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has been a top 4, top 5 quarterback in some categories. Of course, we know the winning stats. He's 59-59 or whatever it is. But what's the stigma around Kirk Cousins? Because you're a former player, and you're a DB. So why does Kirk Cousins have that stigma that he's not a gamer?
Well, gamer, that's a big word right there. And as you know, as players and as coaches too, you look at the playoffs, obviously how guys step up and play in the playoffs. And then the next thing down from the playoffs are the primetime games.
Yeah.
Because that's when your peers are able to sit back and everybody as a player, everybody's gonna be watching this Sunday night game, this Monday night game, this Thursday night game. And obviously he hasn't had a great record in those games. But if you look at all the numbers, all the metrics, he's probably a top 10 guy. And I saw you put your tweet out the other day about you can't name top. I can give you about 12 that I would take before him, but I definitely think he gets a knock. I think he's a very good quarterback. I will be happy when this job became available. I was on the show with Antoine Bethea, I think before one, maybe I forgot who else left after their job. But when this job became available, I said, hey, this Vikings job is the best job out there. You got Kirk Cousins, who obviously going to probably have to do something with his deal. He's for sure top 5 businessman ever to probably come through this league. But I would call him Mr. March. But you had Kirk Cousins, obviously you got Dalvin Cook, you got Thielen, you got Jefferson, you still got weapons on the defense side of the ball. We had Harrison Smith join the pod as well. You went and drafted Cena out of Georgia. So you got the bones there to build a division winner. And this was a lot of question marks was around Aaron Rodgers at the time out there in Green Bay, but obviously he re-signed and stayed there. So right now they're probably still, will finish second place in that division, in my opinion. But if you look at their roster top to bottom, pretty damn good roster going into the season. And like you said, I think you got a pretty damn good quarterback too with Kirk Cousins.
And so looking at the draft, the Colts, I talked to Cato June, friend of mine. Cato June, he said Brian Asamoah, who the Vikings drafted, they were actually looking at him for his size. He's long, he's 6, I think 6'2", 226 pounds, but he runs well, sideline to sideline. And that's the key. He's fast, he's explosive. He's not a Ray Lewis, he's not a banger, like he's not going to come up in the hole, but he will tackle you. They love his athleticism, like Cato loved him. The Vikings now have him. They switched their defense from a 3-4 or 4-3 to a 3-4 now. So in that 3-4 defense, what can a guy like Asamoah do at 220? He'll probably get to 232. You know what that meal plan is now. Yeah, he'll probably get to 232, 235. That weight room plan is a lot different in the NFL. That food's a lot better. You got money. You can eat all the time. What is this kid? What can he possibly do in a 3-4 defense that people haven't seen?
Well, I've been a part of the team going from a 4-3, traditional 4-3. When I first got to the Colts, we had Chuck Pagano come over from the Ravens, and they brought that 3-4. And you got those two guys in the middle, those two backers in the middle. We had Jarrell Freeman. He was a smaller but fast. And as long as you can run and get sideline to sideline, be able to get around blocks, not necessarily, like you said, a Ray Lewis who could just take on the block right down the middle of the face mask, but be able to get around blocks and make plays and stay on the field on third downs. As a linebacker, that's what you need in today's NFL. It's not, kind of like the NFL we played in, where you had 2-down linebackers and right now everybody's coming out in 3 receiver sets, 60+% of the time. So you need a linebacker that can stay on the field, that can match up with tight ends, match up with running backs in open space and make tackles. And he looks like a guy that can do that. Obviously, with any young player in the league, it's gonna be very dependent on that room. And he's around a lot of solid vets, Smith, Kendricks, a lot of guys who played a ton of Peterson, who's played a ton of high-level football, high IQ football in this league. So I think that bodes well for him. So I think he'll fit in good with this defense, and it'll be a competitive division.
Yeah, and DB, you're a cornerback. And so I grew up, watching a cornerback and my dad, Mel Blount, all these guys. So I've always talked to him about corners. And so as I started watching, Darius Butler film, because, guys that I know and I meet and we were in class, we kind of got close, cool. I want to know, and I'm like, man, DB was a baller. Like, dude kept his nose around the ball. So when you're looking at top 10 cornerbacks in the NFL, who are some names that pop up for you right now that are current top 10 cornerbacks?
It's so many, man. It's really hard to make a list. Sometimes even with receivers, you kind of got your top 2 or 3 who just separate themselves: the Jair Alexanders, Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard. Those type of guys. But J.C. Jackson, he's always around the ball. He's a smart player, obviously been in that New England system. Denzel Ward, I love Denzel Ward. You think about the young guys, Patrick Surtain, he came in, and you probably played in the league with his pops.
Yeah.
But he came in and he looked like he was raised by Pat Surtain Sr. He was polished, and then once again around a lot of good pros. You had Simmons out there. You had Kareem Jackson at backfield with them. Kenny Moore is kind of a underrated corner who plays on the outside, played on the inside for the Colts. Who else is out there? It's so many good players, man. Even Gilmore's still up there. I think Gilmore, when he comes, because he was never fully healthy last year, he got back with the Panthers later on in the season. Still played real good ball. So I think with the full off season to get his body right, being with that Colts medical staff, I think he'll be flying around with that defense they'll have out in Indy. But it's a lot of guys, man. I can keep going down the list.
But so I'll say this: Patrick Peterson used to always be one of the top 3 DBs in the league.
Mm-hmm.
In his age right now, where does he fall? And then what does he offer to the cornerbacks on the Vikings team?
Like Pat special. He came into the league, and I think his first 8 years he was a Pro Bowler out of the gate, 8 for 8, which I think like Barry Sanders did that, and maybe 2 other people ever. So he was very, very special. Obviously, extremely gifted, athletically, and even at this age now, he's still, one of the more gifted, athletically talented corners in the league right now. But obviously, he's not at that same level. But he's smart. He knows how to play ball, and he's at the point in his career where now his surrounding cast matters more. 5-6 years ago, 21 was good anywhere. Do whatever you want. Now 7, you want him around some good young talent, some good old talent, but surrounded by good players. So you keep piecing together that secondary, which they have this offseason. He can definitely still be a big piece of that secondary. But I wouldn't want. He's not in the point in his career where he's the guy you want as the cornerstone of your secondary. But he's definitely still good enough. Still plays a level of ball if he stays healthy. Where he can be a high performer. So I'm looking forward to this year for Pat P and the Vikings. But he's age, Father Time gets us all except for Brady right now. He's the only person. So Father Time is 17,000,001 right now. So but I think Pat P is still playing some good ball.
And this is where I'll leave you, man. Last one. When the NFL MVP conversation comes up, I know Jonathan Taylor, if he has another, 2,000-something yard season, he's going to be up in there. There's usually 10 players that the voters kind of get to look at. Kyle Brandt from the NFL Network said that Kirk Cousins is his dark horse MVP candidate. So meaning he thinks he should be in that 10 to 7 range of potential voting as it goes, and he has a chance to win it if Kevin O'Connell can get him going. Do you think that's outlandish? Or do you think that has a chance of happening if Kirk Cousins can throw for 4,800 to 5,000 yards this season and the Vikings go deep in the playoffs?
Oh, no, not outlandish at all, especially if those things happen. And like we talked about, you have the pieces there. Now you got a young, first-year head coach. Shout out to Kevin O'Connell, my former teammate out in New England. But you got a first-year head coach, so he's going to have his growing pains. But he's coming from a Sean McVay, who is one of the best young coaches, in this league. So, and Kirk Cousins, like I said, he's been in this league a long time. He's shown that he's talented, and he's surrounded by other great talent. Dalvin Cook, I just saw him the other day. He looks like a new man coming out there with the Vikings right now. So, not outlandish at all, man. Another dark horse, or I don't even know if he'll be a dark horse, Derek Carr. Out there in Las Vegas with his surrounding cast. You look at these quarterbacks and the weapons that they have around them. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. All these guys have, a stable of weapons around them. So they're set up to succeed. So Kirk Cousins by no means should be you look on paper, he should be set up for great success. So that's not crazy at all.
And last one, we're like, I let you go. I lied. Always, just like his coach. you got 10 sprints, but hey, you got one more.
Yeah,
Kevin O'Connell. You said something I want to get you to talk about. Kevin O'Connell, real quick, as a player. What kind of player was he?
Man, he energy, positive attitude, and obviously, he was a backup quarterback. Got drafted late behind Brady. So you see a lot of these backup quarterbacks going and do great things in the coaching ranks because they're used to being like team guys and still playing their role, being pivotal in practice, being able to connect with the rest of the roster. They're out there, during the week playing with scout teams and backups and everything like that, guys that are playing special teams. So they can connect with – I play with Jacoby Brissett, play with Matt Hasselbeck, these Derek Anderson, all just great personality. So I think Kevin O'Connell, he's going to bring that positive, that upbeat attitude, and then he's going to demand greatness as well. You know, being around Bill Belichick, being around Sean McVay, one of the greatest old OG head coaches, and then you got the young guy who has a lot of new wrinkles to the game. So he's been around it all. He's seen a lot. So I'm excited for him getting his first opportunity. And then you got a new GM as well. So, the GM probably let him do his thing on that football side and just handle his business, upstairs. So I'm excited for Kevin in this opportunity. Like I said, I thought this was probably the best job opening. And there were like 7, 8 that were available. I think this Vikings one was the best because they're ready to succeed right now.